Hey, how tough is Chris Carson? We've seen him go through a couple things already this week, and then last week he comes back from the injury in the second half. He's leaping over guys and stuff like that.
Really impressive. He just he's just an amazing athlete. He's an amazing competitor. We weren't sure what we would get from him last week. We really weren't. You went through the week of practice, and he did some things, but we weren't sure. And to go out there and do what he did, and to run as hard as he did, he got off to a really nice start, Bob, and couple touchdowns early, and then he took the big hit over there on our sideline late, and again we weren't sure. I think it just speaks to the type of heart he has, the type of competitor he is, and obviously the way he's physically built. He looks like a running back. He plays a physical style of football, so very impressive for him. Again, I'm not surprised, but we really didn't know what we would get from him as the week went on, and we were very pleased. He's running so hard. He's physical at the finish, so he's playing really at a high level.
Corbin Smith.
Hey, Brian, you're going to be facing two of the best safeties in football this week, guys that very familiar with. You've seen him several times. What makes Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris so difficult to game plan for, and what have you thought of the young corners that they've got out there this season?
Well, Corbin, the safeties are both terrific veteran players. They've seen a ton of football. They're in a scheme that allows them to impact the game with the way they blitz, with the way they disguise coverage. And the really cool thing when you look at what they do, Minnesota defensively with Zimmer and his staff, the balance of what they do is really crazy when you look at it. The number of pressure and base versus sub, the amount of times that Harris comes versus the amount of time that Harrison comes is crazy. There's just unbelievable balance. So it's hard to get a tell on them. But again, some of the split safety stuff that they do, they take chances. They're willing to take risks, try to make plays on the ball. If there's a better combo of safeties in the league, we haven't seen them yet probably this year. Obviously ours are really good here, but the corners, they're good. They're young. They play the style very, very well. This is a defense that they try to do a lot of bend but don't break. They don't want to give up big plays. They want to be smart, try to keep the ball in front of them. But you see flashes of talent, both from Gladney and from Hill, and we saw him last year. But you see talented guys that are showing up making a lot of plays. So very, very good secondary, very well coached, and they can cause problems for you.
Ben?
Shotty, how much growth have you seen in DK in the route running department over the last year?
Ben, he's gotten a lot better. He works on it tirelessly. I mean, you guys watch him pre-practice probably. He's always working with Nate and Sanjay, and just the cool thing about a receiver and with what we're doing with guys like DK and some of the young guys is you don't have to go out there and run 20 yards every time to work on some of your change of direction and transition stuff. There's simple drills that we do, and it's all about dropping your weight, keeping your shoulders back, keeping your knees over your toes, things like that. And he's just attacking it, man. I mean, just each and every week. Some guys, you have the production he's had, and you get to week 4 or week 5, and you're like, I'm good. He's not. If anything, you see him ramping it back up and doing more than maybe he did in the first couple weeks. So that's really cool. But he's really grown. There's a lot coming out about him not being able to run certain routes. Again, I think he's proven that's not the case. There's nothing that we're not comfortable calling with him, and I think that that's because of hard work.
And then at the bottom of the running back depth chart between Travis Homer, what have you seen out of him as kind of a runner, and then as a Pat, picking up his blocks, and then also DJ Dallas getting his first offensive snaps in Miami?
Yeah, it's funny. We went back and we looked at some of Travis's carries because the numbers aren't things you get really excited about. It really has not been all of Travis's fault. There's a bad play call by me in Atlanta this past week. We had to check a play away from a blitz. The thing got strung out. The defensive end and safety were coming off the backside. There was nowhere for him to cut up. So Travis is a fine runner. He's a good runner. He's a really good runner. It's just the numbers aren't what they are just because of some of the things that he's had to deal with. So it's not him. We have all the confidence in the world of Travis as a runner. You guys see how physically he runs. You saw that last year. You saw it early in the season. So it really has been other issues that have popped up, including some calls by me. But DJ, again, very talented. It was cool to see him get in the action. It's certainly not too big for him. I say that a lot with young players just because you never know. You get your first couple plays and you're getting the ball, and he did a nice job breaking some tackles. He caught a couple checkdowns and got good yards after catch. Very instinctive football player, DJ. Very instinctive. And so we feel great about our running back depth. We really do. We feel like it's just we got 4 guys that we feel could go and carry the load and do what we need them to do.
Thank you.
Jackie.
Hey, Shadi, I have a couple questions for you. First, we heard from Russell earlier today, and he was saying that he thinks the offense is at its best it's ever been. Obviously, you haven't been here the whole time with him, but what do you think has led to that success and effectiveness?
Jackie, that's a hard question. Again, we're firing on all cylinders for sure. We go into games with a lot of confidence. We're practicing well. We don't come off the practice field like maybe in years past and be like, it wasn't a very good day. Most days are pretty clean. Again, I just think it comes down to the fact that we're executing well. Russ is playing terrific. The offensive line, really, you saw how many guys we had to play last week, and they all went in there and functioned, and the backs, and of course our skill players are very talented. So I can't really put it on one thing, but I will say I would agree with Russ that we go into games extremely confident that if we do what we're capable of doing, teams should struggle to slow us down. Now, will teams do that? Sure. If we don't do what we're supposed to do, if our execution isn't clear, if we make self-inflicted wounds. But for the most part, we've been able to avoid those things these first 4 weeks. And that's the challenge, staying consistent.
And then secondly, going back to Minnesota, they don't have the sack numbers there, but with Ngakoue added up front, how disruptive has he been in their play?
Really good player, very strong, very quick first step, excellent speed to power rush. I think you see him getting more comfortable. You watch first couple games, and then you watch this last game against Houston. He looks more comfortable, maybe with what they're asking him to do. So, again, that's where I don't always believe the numbers. I watch the film and I see it, and it's not just him. They do a tremendous job of getting pressure on the quarterback, and again, with the coverages that they're playing behind it, they're betting that if they can get pushed, that you're going to force people to make mistakes, and so I still think they're a very, very formidable group.
Thank you.
Tim Booth.
Hey, Brian. This isn't easy to hone in on just one thing with how well he's playing, but when you sit there and look and see what Russell's doing in games on Sunday, what's one thing you just look at and go, man, he's really doing this piece better than I've ever seen him do it, whether it's the deep ball, whether it's throwing decisively on time, whatever it might be. What's that one thing that sort of stood out to you for these first 4 games?
Tim, I would say the first thing, as you started asking me, I was thinking about it, and a bunch of things popped in my brain. I'll share one with you. Probably just how decisive he's been of working his progressions. There's been a number of times where he's gotten off of 1 and 2, gotten to 3, even 4 sometimes. I think that's probably because he's comfortable, or more comfortable with some of the concepts that we've been running for a couple of years now. But he's just playing with a lot of decisiveness. And I've always said it this way, Tim, I think when you watch a quarterback, everybody watches the ball and they see where it's going, but watch the quarterback's footwork, watch his back foot at setup, and you can kind of always see how well they're seeing the game. If you see his back foot hit and the ball come out, or you see his back foot hit and maybe take a hitch or a reset and the ball come out quick, that means he's seeing things well. When you see quarterbacks back, then they kind of start shaking their feet a little bit and they're like, oh man, I don't know. That means they're not seeing things very well. If you go watch Russ, he's getting that ball in his hand fast because he's seeing things well. He's got a great feel for what teams are doing to us, and he's working progressions. And when he does that, he's really dangerous.
Joe Fan.
Brian, how much is this year business as usual, normal football, and while it might kind of be weird at first, there's no fans, you just go to your job and it's no different? Or is there something to never having to go into silent count and not having to deal with fans and it being a whole lot different, good or bad?
Yeah, Joe, it is different. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't different. It's still weird to go into stadiums and just not have the fans out there. I mean, they're such a big part of the game. Whether it's at home where they're cheering for us, whether it's on the road where they're booing and trying to make it hard for us. So we're still getting used to it. I would say we're not affected that much by the cadence stuff. But it's just the year itself is unusual for sure. But again, we're just taking it one day at a time, and we want everybody to be safe and, monitoring things, around here. We're doing great. So it's a unique year for sure, but one that we're certainly enjoying. We love football. We come every work excited about, getting a chance to play this game for a great organization, and that doesn't change.
Do you think it's different to your benefit or just different?
I think it's just different. I mean, of course, when you go into certain stadiums and there's not 85,000 or 75,000 fans, it certainly doesn't hurt us to not have those guys there. But again, I think we've proven that we can do that if we have to face fans, whether it's in Philadelphia or places that are allowed.
Curtis.
Brian, why do you think David Moore has such a knack for the big play?
Tremendous athlete, Curtis. Some of the little specials that we've kind of run for him. The one against Atlanta, you guys will remember the balls bobbling on the ground. The one this week, we didn't block it very well, and he's an uncanny athlete. He's a very big, powerful runner. He's hard to cover in man-to-man because he's so fast. And it's just been really awesome to watch him grow and develop. When I came here, he was truly what you would call a one-position guy, where we wanted to put him over at X and let him learn that. It was his second year in the league, I believe, coming from a small school. And you know what? There's nothing he can't do now. It was actually cool. It was last week in practice, I saw him correct Tyler on a formation. He was like, no, you're in there. Get in there. And that was really cool. I hadn't seen that before. And Tyler, I think Tyler was surprised by it too. He's like, really? Oh, yeah, you're right. So that's cool. When you see a guy not only who's performing well, playing well, but he's picking up the system, and he owns it, and he knows it. And I'm just happy for him.
Mike?
Hey, Brian, last year against these guys, you guys were on fire offensively, and they kind of had the two deep looks, and it resulted in a big day from the run game when Russ was cooking. How do you balance that, this week? They'll probably do something similar to slow down the passing game. How do you balance wanting to do what Russ is doing with cooking and kind of taking what they're giving you?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how the game goes, Mike. It's a good question. They surprised us last year a little bit with all the cover two that they played. They hadn't shown that much. He's going to mix his coverages. Coach Zimmer's done that for forever, mix his coverages. But again, it comes back down to execution. Just our ability to, when we call runs, make the runs go by blocking and running and making good reads and good checks. And then when we're throwing the football, it starts with protection and then guys getting open and knowing that a lot of zone coverage out there. So he'll have some wrinkles for us, but they're pretty good defense. So they're not gonna change up too much. We're certainly not gonna change up too much. And I think we both know each other very well. They know us pretty well. We know them pretty well. So it should be a heck of a matchup.
Thanks.
All right, two more for Coach. Brady, and then we'll end up with Greg.
Hi, Brian. Could you take us into what those conversations were like at the end of the first half last week when you guys decided to try to drive down the field with only a handful of seconds left? And do you think that was a decision that you would have made in past years?
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion. I think the biggest reason why we were at first like, what do we do, is because we knew we're getting the ball first. But once we knew, okay, hey, we got the 2 timeouts, let's see what happens. We were very comfortable doing that. In years past, yeah, probably. Same situation, playing well. Some youth in the opponent's secondary, but. Again, it comes down to execution. And so we were able to get the first play to Greg for a nice positive gain. A lot of times that first play, Brady, is what kind of determines how the drive's going to go. Like if the defense stops you, sometimes you're like, hey, maybe we'll take it to halftime. But we hit the first one, we used the timeout, and then they kind of lost contain on Russ. He got outside. The corner was overlapping, kind of jumped Greg, and we found Demo. If anything, I'm actually more proud of the way we executed down in the low red zone there. Limited time. Greg makes a great catch coming across. I think it was first down. He makes a great catch. He made some great catches last week. But then, we're coming off and we got 6 seconds left, and you're really trying to say, okay, we got to get this ball pushed quick because we at least have a field goal. And Russ reads his progression, like I was talking about earlier with Tim, and he's trying to look to DK. They rolled over there. He didn't like it, so he came back front side and saw Travis. And we were really excited Travis got his first touchdown. So, again, when we had the 2 timeouts, we felt good about the situation. But, again, it comes down to execution, and our guys came through in that regard, and it's good for us. It was a big momentum swing for us.
Thanks.
Brian, what'd you do that whole drive when the headsets went out? Did you go get some more cheesecake, or did you get jealous, or what was going on?
Greg, you're always good for this question. So the headset goes out. So, of course, you initially yell at the guys that run the communication system. You yell at them to say what's going on. Then you ask the guys downstairs if there's any communication. And then you start thinking about food. And so literally I eat these honeybee snacks, these energy snacks all game. And so I had heard the key lime pie was out. True story. I heard the key lime pie was out, and so I just – yeah, was it good? Yeah. See, I think BC up in the box ate the last one. And so I was eating my honeybees, waiting for it to come back on. And I'm like everybody at that point. I'm cheering on the guys, and it doesn't surprise me at all. We got great players. Russ is in command of things, and it was cool to see those guys do that.
Did you prepare especially for – I've been around the league long enough to know Miami's known for that. Did you prepare especially last week?
Greg, there's a certain number of places where it has happened to me before. I'm not saying one of them is Miami, but it's happened to me before. I've called plays in many stadiums, and it's happened to me before down there. So who knows? I don't know. I think it was just a communication issue. They got it fixed, and we were able to still have some success.
And one quick one on your offensive line. The way you guys, when you signed Brandon Shelf, for instance, how much did that marry with, you told us a couple weeks ago you met with Wilson and Coach Carroll in the offseason, said we want to be more aggressive, we want to throw her an earlier down. How much did how you construct the offensive line mesh with that mindset?
Well, I think it was more about we saw a really good player in Brandon. We saw a good player at New York that functioned well. We obviously it was an area that we wanted to address, and we were fortunate enough to get Brandon. And then nobody again knew that Ethan would play as well as he has. He's doing terrific. He deserves a bunch of credit. He's playing great. And then to find a guy like Damian Lewis in the third round was terrific. So I think you're always looking to compete in personnel. You're always looking to try to, hey, how can we get better? What can we do? Hey, what about this? What if we do that? And so it was just the puzzles come together. And so the puzzle's never completely finished. You always keep working on the puzzle. And but he's been a terrific acquisition, veteran guy, tough, gritty, great leadership skills. So he's been an awesome addition that really enjoyed coaching.
Honeybees? What are honeybees?
They're energy snacks. Hopefully they'll send me some maybe. But they're these little energy snacks. They're really good. Fruit Punch is the one to try.
Okay.
All right. All right.
You
guys good? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.